Back to another video for Hoi4. Today we're going to be playing a Florida Submod for the Fire Rises. I just saw it on the workshop and I thought I'd try it out. I cut out the first bit here just because, not much happens for the first part of the game. You're just doing all the mini games and stuff. But I decided to keep in the volunteer stuff, going to Saudi Arabia, just because it's more action-packed, I think an interesting strategy I had here, you're going to see it in just a few seconds, is that, you run out of fuel, there's not a lot of supply hubs, so I'd have to go back to the capital, and then I have to go back out and fence. I do that over and over again. I have much better units, but you just don't have supply out there. But anyways, the story about how I found this, I just saw it on the front part of the workshop. This is not a new update to the Fire Rises, this is just a small little one. There is a decision to reunify America at the end, but I decided not to go with that. And as per usual, America's going to collapse into a civil war. I don't know if you played this game before this mod. I'm assuming most of the audience has, but basically America has a civil war. I think the point of divergence is that the king of Saudi Arabia dies, which causes a civil war, which causes an oil crisis, and this all happens during COVID, which causes a global financial crisis, which sets off everything else. I think that's the divergence point for this mod, and all of this takes place back during 2020, of course. I think it's oh yeah, here we go. I have to tag over to Florida. This first part of the war was pretty hard, and you're about to see that I had to restart a couple of times just because I kind of forgot to put my troops on the front line in a couple of areas. But overall, I enjoyed this first stage pretty much. But going back to the Fire Rises, I think it's a very well-made mod. I think there's a lot of intention behind it, and I think they have a bright future ahead of them. Other mods like the New Order just fell apart. Constant revisionism for what they've already made, and I think that just slowly makes the mod worse over time. But with the Fire Rises, they don't really seem to have any restrictions to realism. They just care about making things fun and interesting, and I think that's a great philosophy to have for when it comes to Hoi4 modding, because really, it's just LARPing, basically. It's not some sort of simulation of real-world events. It doesn't need to be a simulation of real-world events. It's a game that people are supposed to have fun in, and I think taking all the fun things out is not a good idea. There are some pretty crazy paths in this mod, and I can talk about that more if you want, but I think I'm going to talk more about the war here. So what I try and do is you saw me take out the first state and then the second one. There's a few breakaway states, but those ones are pretty easy to take out, and I take out two of them, and the Atomwaffen, which are, the neo-Nazi guys I'm trying to beat, take out one of them, so we're kind of evenly matched. They also are fighting the UN in the bottom part at the beginning. Now, something you really don't want to underestimate in the Fire Rises is buying equipment from the private military company decisions they give y'all. I think it's a good idea to take those and to use those, because you'll see me go back and forth through the menus here and take out a lot of debt just to purchase all that. But I think it also kind of plays in well into the mod. It does. The debt does hurt you in the long run. Unless you kind of keep things financially stable. And this mod does give you a lot of buffs for being the state of Florida, And then I had to go with the War of the Clan up here. There was like a little ticker. I think it was to make the war harder because, at this point in the war, a few months in, all the smaller states are gone. You're probably just left with the Atomwaffen. So they want to open up a second front to make it more interesting, more difficult. The clan has other fronts though, so it's pretty easy, but I'd say it's a fun way to keep it interesting, So I kind of go back and forth here. I try and push on one side, and then I try and push on the other. I thought maybe they would capitulate because the capital is Fort Myers, but as you'll see in a moment, that does not happen, which is a little disappointing. I think what's going on in the rest of the world this game is the Russians go with Medvedev, and the Chinese lose the first Japanese war to retake Taiwan, and they get taken over by the New Left. I haven't played as them yet. I think they'd probably be pretty interesting, It's a less expected faction for the Chinese outside of nationalists and the normal government and the reformists, but what can you say, really? So I do break through eventually. and I just attack, on every front to try and just keep all the divisions pinned. I think people really should not underestimate pinning divisions in Hearts of Iron 4. It's really, I didn't start doing it as much until recently, and I've been playing this game for years and years, and it's probably a really basic thing I probably should have been doing this whole time. So now I switch my focus up here to where to basically the Confederates, to take them out, And we're still playing as Ron DeSantis as the Republican Party, so we're not very extremist yet. We don't even become really extremist. I eventually opt for the, see right here, the authoritarian democracy path, which is just the police commissioner. I mean, it's pretty extreme, but it's nothing compared to a lot of other factions that you can see in this mod. I'd say this submod, it was a little broken. I don't get a lot of cores on anything, even when I do take a big decision to reunite the South, but it was really fun. I think that adds extra challenge, just considering, I'm Florida right now, and I have 47 factories, which is quite a lot. I think it's a great fun mod. It just needs a few tweaks, to make it more interesting. There's some confusing things, like you have to release all these states and then re-annex them. I guess which is supposed to mimic, how a confederation will work, but it just make it easier where you can just have a decision, I think would probably be better. And also when those states are re-released, they don't have cores when they're re-released, so it causes a whole thing. But I get this police guy in charge. I think that's really his whole shtick, is that he's a policeman and he wants a firm iron fist, law and order. Other than that, really, I just kind of spam out as many divisions as possible. In the early game, you saw me putting out more militia, and then I start putting out more of the National Guard divisions, just because it's a lot easier to use those divisions, because they're a lot more expensive, but they got a lot more firepower behind them. You see me buying a lot of weapons from Israel in this video. I didn't kind of realize how often that happens. Let me know what y'all think of Israel down in the comments below, if things are getting too boring. What do you think of Israel? Tell me what you think of, what are you going to vote for in the election, maybe, Tell me what your IP address is. Tell me anything down in the comments, really. You see me using the Air Force a lot. These things just melt away. They're pretty expensive, and I bought them all off the international market in this game, but they just get melted away by anti-aircraft. So you have to be really careful about when you do use them. And even when you're playing as a larger country like Japan, against China, or you're playing as China against Japan, it feels like the AI just has an infinite amount of aircraft. So even when you're not doing the ground support and you're going for air superiority, it's you just lose them all very quickly over the course of a couple of weeks, which it's probably realistic in some sense of the word. And it also creates it engages the player more, because it forces them to only use the aircraft under certain situations, like when they're being attacked or when they're launching a big offensive. So you know what, maybe that is a good design idea. You saw me look around Europe. A lot of them are pretty communist countries. Even though they won the first European war, I think they just decided to go with, they're still democratic, but they decided to go with the far left paths. Which is interesting. I don't think I've seen that before. But you see me go to war with the Patriot Front here, just because I want to finish up this last war. I didn't have any cores, and I was like, I'm probably going to take forever to beat all these other guys. So I just decided to reunite the South. You see I get a cool little flag, which is, I wonder if it changed depending on which candidate you had be elected. It probably does. That's a pretty cool flag. I think I like it. I don't know. It's interesting. They also put the African National Congress in this mod. They put them down as an authoritarian democracy, even though they're technically socialist. And I would say that's probably a good take on them in real life. Pretty corrupt sort of thing. Not to get political or anything. I just think it's interesting, because that's usually on the right wing of the spectrum, at least in most mods, when they do put that in that ideology. But in real life, it can really refer to all sorts of things. It's a very broad category, and I do like that. You see the communist faction in the American Civil War. They also have a big authoritarian democratic party as well. I don't think they have a path for them. I think they should add one in there. That'd be pretty cool. But you see me beat the Patriot Front here. We're almost done. I can just kind of push them back at this point. I run out of most of the Air Force, but that's about it. That's the end of the video, really. you know, the Southern American government is back in charge, I guess. And yeah, have a great day. Like and subscribe. I hope you found this video interesting. This was just a showcase of a quick little submod, but I thought it was a nice little one. I think it could be improved, but it was pretty great. So bye-bye. Like, subscribe, comment, share, and have a great day. See you around. Bye-bye.